I think it's time that we talk about the Arizona State Sun Devils loss to the UCLA Bruins, and not for the reason you think. We'll talk about what I do mean on this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
Are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, all, and welcome to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I am your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils football. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Remember, the podcast is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube if you want to check us out in a visual platform. But of course, wherever you are getting those podcasts, hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you get an update every time we post new content. To stay in touch with that content, make sure you're following me on Twitter. You can find me at RichieBrads36. Follow the podcast while you're there as well, at LO_Sun Devils. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, guys. I know schedule has been really wonky lately with the podcast. My apologies for that. Real life gets in the way sometimes, and things have been very hectic. But we are going to finally sit down and have a conversation about the Arizona State Sun Devils loss to the UCLA Bruins. It was a very frustrating loss, and there's a lot of different emotions that go into this game for me when I think about this game and when I sit down and I'm ready to talk about this game. There's a lot that went into this game. There was a lot of buildup. There was a lot of hope that this could potentially be a season turnaround, and I wasn't the only one who thought that. Because if you went to Sun Devil Stadium on Saturday night, you saw the closest thing to a sold-out stadium that I've seen, and I can't even remember how long. Arizona State Sun Devil football games just don't sell out anymore. And I understand it to a certain extent because you don't want to pay money to go see a product that isn't good. You don't want to invest your time in something that isn't worth investing. But that's a part of being a fan, which we'll talk more about in a little bit. That will come back to play later. But you go to this game and the atmosphere feels different. It feels like, despite the fact that this is a 3-5 football team going into this game, you still felt like you had a chance to take down this 7-1 football team. This number 12 ranked UCLA Bruins, this potential UCLA Bruins team to challenge for the Pac-12 championship, to win the entire conference, to potentially go to the college football playoff for the first time in its history. The feeling was there. And it was provided. Like it gave us, what's the word I'm looking for? Like it felt valid, I guess. Because on the first play of the game, you pick off Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Chris Edmonds records his third interception of the season. Very first play of the game for Arizona State Sun Devils. All of a sudden, you're sitting there and you're like, wow, these guys meant it. These guys 100% are in it to win it. And they get points. That's the important thing. Start off 3-0. Give up a touchdown, 7-3. Go down and score. 10-7. You're sitting there, you're like, we're ready. We can go back and forth with this team. We're ready for the shootout. We're ready to do what we need to do in order to win this game. And that's to just be able to put up points at every opportunity. But then comes 3 straight punts. Then comes the end of the first half. Then comes a 3-and-out to start the second half. 5 straight possessions where you weren't able to get points. And quickly, the game got out of hand. Very, very quickly, this game was no longer within the realm of possibilities for Arizona State to win. Or at least it felt that way. Because right when it all felt lost, right when you go 3-and-out to start the second half, and then you allow UCLA to go right down the field and score a touchdown and make it a 35-10 football game, life just finds a way, as Dr. Ian Malcolm once said. And all of a sudden, the Sun Devils look like they're not ready to roll over on their backs and quit yet. They look like they still have something worth fighting for. They go down, they score, they get the 2-point conversion. It's 35-18. UCLA scores again, though, makes it 42-18. But what does the offense do? They go down the field and they score. 42-25 now. This game could be won depending on who has the ball last. ASU gets a turnover. They score again. Field goal this time. It's 42-28 now. They force a punt. They force a 3-and-out nonetheless. They score a touchdown. They go for 2. It's 42-36 now. What on earth is going on? ASU is on a 26-7 run suddenly. We're one touchdown away from tying the game and an extra point from a lead. There's just one problem. There's a few, but there's one big problem. Nobody's there to watch. Because while this insane comeback is going on, the stand's emptied. The fans quit. They saw a 28-10 deficit at halftime. They said, we don't want to stay. Maybe some of them did stay for the start of the second half. Watched ASU go 3-and-out. Watched the ASU defense give up a touchdown. 35-10. I don't want to stay. I want to go. I don't want to sit here and watch this. Okay. That's fair. That's valid. It's your money. It's your tickets, your seats, your decision. But just know this. I think that game might have been different if you stayed. Because you went from what was the closest to a sold-out stadium I've seen in quite some time for Arizona State to what felt bare empty. I'm not good with math. I would say that you were in the 90% for being sold out for stadium capacity in that game. I want to say by the time that the fourth quarter had rolled around, you were under 50%. That might be generous, but they just filed out. And then what we had assumed was going to happen happened, and ASU couldn't get the stops they needed. They ended up giving up a touchdown, made it a 50-36 ball game. That was the stop they needed. There was a massive penalty during that drive that gave UCLA a first down, but we're not talking about that penalty right now. No, we're going to talk about some of the other reasons Arizona State lost. And we're going to talk about those in just a moment on this edition of the podcast. But first, I want to take a small little detour and tell you guys about our friends over at Nissan. Nissan right now has come up with a brand new segment for us. It's this week's thrilling moment in college football, brought to you by Nissan. The thrilling designs behind the new lineup from Nissan are intended to empower drivers in vehicles as capable as the drivers themselves. When I think of unbelievable abilities on the field for this week's thrilling moment, it has to be Elijah Badger's one-handed touchdown grab in the back corner of the end zone. Arizona State trying to make something out of nothing, trying to scrounge their way back into this game. Who else do they go to? They go to the newly established number one receiver for Arizona State. They go to Elijah Badger. All of a sudden, this game turns into a very tight and competitive outing. All of a sudden, Arizona State feels like they might be able to bring some kind of momentum back into this game. It's exactly what the team needed. Unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. But again, thrilling. And that's what we're here to talk about. This segment has been inspired by the thrilling new designs featured across Nissan's all-new lineup of vehicles. Pursue what thrills you in the all-new Frontier, Armada, or Pathfinder today, available at nissanusa.com. And before we continue, I also want to talk to you guys about our friends over at My Solar Nerd. If you guys live in Arizona, then you have probably been reached out to by now regarding free solar. The truth is, many of these companies aren't local, and because of that, they're using misleading tactics and end up overcharging homeowners. If you've considered solar but something fell off, you're going to love what I have to tell you about My Solar Nerd. My Solar Nerd's mission is simple: help you get the best solar system to fit your needs. The guys at mysolarnerd.com are local and understand the nuances of going solar in Arizona. They've been doing it for a while and understand that an educated customer is a happy customer. Their no pressure approach will make sure your questions get answered. They firmly believe that if you live in EZ, switching to solar should mean saving money. Once you're ready, they'll put their industry knowledge to work for you by choosing the best equipment, warranties, and BBB accredited installer. They'll also help you figure out all the credits and incentives you may qualify for, and they'll make sure that your transition to solar is as smooth as possible by managing the entire project for you and keeping you updated along the way. Our listeners will get a $50 Amazon gift card when they book a no commitment evaluation. This promotion is only for our listeners that are homeowners. Visit mysolarnerd.com and select Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us section. Make the switch to solar on your terms. Start your research process by visiting mysolarnerd.com and show Locked On some love by letting them know we sent you. Folks, going solar doesn't need to be complicated. mysolarnerd.com makes it easy. Let's go ahead and continue our conversation now. Back to what I was saying. If it truly felt like the life had been sucked out of the stadium by the poor play of the team. And because of that, everyone gave up. Nobody wanted to watch this team anymore. And everyone would rather go down about a quarter mile. What's that end up being? West. About a quarter mile west over to Mill Avenue. That felt like the plan. It was parents' weekend. Kids didn't want to stay and watch a crappy football game with their parents. They'd rather go and get dinner and celebrate good times. It's a Saturday night in Tempe. I mean, what better thing to do than to go out and have some drinks, right? Makes sense. Totally makes sense. I can't fault you for that. But when I think about this game, I think that the fans would have made a difference. You have heard the term before, 12th man. If you are brand new to the sport and don't know what the 12th man is, you are the 12th man. There are 11 players on the football field. The 12th player is in the crowd. It's screaming, it's shouting, it's clapping, it's yelling, it's stomping, anything you can do to make noise and get inside the opponent players' heads. You're the 12th man on that field. Jalen Strong, former Arizona State Sun Devils wide receiver. Honestly, in my opinion, maybe a little biased, but a program legend, Jalen Strong, was at that game. He was in attendance. He said, we got to get this team back into it. He was upset, and he should have been. He had every reason to feel the way he did, especially when someone fired at him and said, it's hard to be dedicated when the team is playing as poorly as they are. And Jalen put it best. Are you not the 12th man? So let me ask you, Sun Devil fans, are you not the 12th man? Why are you out there so quiet? Why are you leaving? I don't see Alabama fans leaving when their team's losing. I don't see Tennessee fans leaving when they're losing. I don't see Oregon fans leaving when they're losing, if you want to go West Coast. Heck, I see Colorado fans that stick around longer. But yet Arizona State, we don't want to be here. Then why'd you go? I have a problem with it. I truly do. These kids needed the crowd. Post-game press conference, they were talking to Trenton Bourguet. They asked him, they said, what's it feel like? He answered it about as professionally as he could and said that he let down the fans. The fans let him down. It's the student section that files out at halftime every single week. It's the fan base that is so entitled to a good football team because they got to watch Jake Plummer take them to a Rose Bowl and Mark Malone win them a Rose Bowl. It's the new generation that doesn't understand how to be fully committed to a team through thick and thin. It's all of these different fans that contribute to such a toxic environment for Arizona State Sun Devils football. And these kids, by the way, there's no one older than like 23, 24. I don't have a calendar in front of me for birthdays, but these are no older than 23 to 24-year-old kids are playing their hearts out, playing a game they love for college they love, a college you love too. There should be some kind of bond between us and the current players. We should be wanting the same thing, Arizona State to win football games. Instead, this stinks. Let's go have a drink on Mill. Don't go. This game to me is the epitome of how important having your fan base have your back is. When you have that kind of crowd noise, it affects teams. You get false starts. People can't hear the audibles. People can't understand when the count is going. Okay? You guys play a major factor in this, more than you realize, more than you will give yourself credit for. Realize that. Realize how important going to these games is for these kids, for the program. You want to talk about wins? Look, what are those teams I have in common that don't leave their games prove to you? They win football games. With the exception of Colorado, who hasn't won a lot of football games, they just have more dedicated fans than we do. I'll call a spade a spade. I think Colorado Buffalo fans are more dedicated. They sit through that team no matter how bad they are. ASU fans, I could always find something better to do. That's the logic. But when you have Alabama, when you have Georgia, when you have, and you know what? I will use Tennessee especially as an example here, because Tennessee has a lot of recency bias as being one of the best programs in the nation. It took them a while to get back to where they're at. You ask a Tennessee fan, ask them, how hard was it to sit through Butch Jones? How hard was it to sit through the countless other quarterbacks, defensive coordinators, head coaches that have gone through that program in the last 10 years, let alone since the Peyton Manning days, let alone since the Reggie White days? No, those Tennessee fans sell out. Rocky Top is a difficult place to play. They are reaping the benefits recently of being so dedicated to that program, sticking through thick and thin with them, and showing that they're in it for the long run. The most frustrating part is I've seen that from Arizona State before. I've seen that potential. Those early Todd Graham days, that back-to-back 10-win season we had, the year we beat Notre Dame in Tempe, we were the number 9 team in the nation. We went to Corvallis and lost to Oregon State as the number 6 team in the nation. We still just defended that team. So I know we're capable of it. I know full well that we are capable of a university of having a dedicated program, having a dedicated fan base, having a dedicated student section, having a dedicated audience, a 12th man, if you will. It's there. It's there. But I'm starting to question whether or not you guys truly want it. Let's hop into one more quick break. When we return, we'll pick it up where I just left it off. First, I want to talk to you guys about our good friends, of course, over at Bet Online. All right, guys, Bet Online is still your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. We've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you'll find those at betonline.net as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action happening right now at BetOnline, where the game starts. And then one last thing, guys, make sure, if you have not checked it out yet, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. Make it your second listen of the day. The biggest stories of the day for all sports, instant reactions, big game recaps, and of course, the take of the day. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever else you're getting your podcasts. Final thoughts here, because I don't want to continue to be mad at the fan base. I want to challenge the fan base instead. We have one more home game this year. It's Oregon State. Show out. It's homecoming. That's homecoming for Arizona State. I want to see everyone. Oregon State's a good football team. They were just previously ranked. Show out to that game. Especially if you're an alumni. I want to see you there. I want to see you rooting on that team. More importantly, I want to see you for all 60 minutes of that football game. I don't want to see you filing out at the stadium at halftime. I don't want to see the stadium close to empty with 5 minutes left to play. Stay and fight with this team. They're 3-6. They could easily have more wins. I'm not going to count Eastern Michigan. That was just a flat-out loss. But we were this close against Stanford. That's a 4th win. I'm convinced if we stayed and fought in that game harder, we could have beat UCLA. That's a 5th win. Suddenly, you're a 5-4 football team and 1 win away from going to a bowl game. Instead, you got to win out. And it's not going to be easy. You got to go to Pullman this week to play the Wazoo Cougars. Very up and down football team. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know heads or tails. So we'll see. But regardless of that outcome, regardless if we come home with our 7th loss or if we come home with our 4th win, show up to Tempe for that game. Better yet, you really want to prove how much you love this program? I'm going down to Tucson. I want you guys to go down to Tucson with me. I want you guys to go down to Tucson this year and cheer on Arizona State against Arizona. I want to see all the Sun Devils out there. Sell that stadium out. And I want to see a lot more maroon and gold than I want to see red and blue. I want to see Sun Devil fans care about beating U of A for a 6th straight year. Let me fix that. Forks up. 6 straight years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight years. We have that potential. U of A, they're about as middling as it gets. We're playing better football than them right now. Even if that's the only win we still have left on this regular season, let's go get it. Let's go beat the U of A Wildcats this year. Let's go down to Tucson and root on our team like we've never rooted them on before. ASU needs us, the fans, more than ever. We have 3 games left in 2022. We got to win out if we want to go bowling. How bad do you guys want it? I know how bad the players want it. I've talked to the players. I know how bad they want it. I know how bad the coaches want it. I've talked to the coaches. I know they want it. How bad do you want it, Arizona State fans? You realize losing games isn't doing anyone any favors. We don't get to tank for the number 1 prospect in the nation. We don't get to tank for the best head coaching candidate. The only thing that benefits us from losing is, nothing. We get nothing out of losing. The players don't want to lose. The coaches don't want to lose. Do you want to lose? Because if you wanted to lose at the beginning of the season, it was because you wanted Herm fired. Well, Herm's been gone for months now. Okay? Herm's gone, and he's not coming back. So at this point, if you want the team to lose, I'm genuinely curious what you think you're getting out of it. You should want us to win. Support the team. And if you're not at the games, totally understand. Keep that TV on. Keep the energy. Don't switch the channel. Don't go to Family Feud. You can watch Family Feud whenever. You've only got 3 more Arizona State Sun Devil football games this year. And this is a fun team to watch. It's not like we're losing 50-10 every week. Stay committed. I know it's not easy. Do it, though. You love this team as much as you say you do. Show me. Show me, because I know you can. I've seen Arizona State have that potential to be that committed franchise, to have all of the alumni, all the current students, all the fans who just grew up loving Arizona State. I know we can do this. So let's do it. 3 more games this year. We got to win out to go bowling. Let's do it. Let's do it. That's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. Thank you guys so much for all the patience. I promise we're going to be getting back into a regular rhythm. Tomorrow's episode will be covering the basketball game that we played on Monday. So definitely stay tuned for that. And wherever you're getting your podcast, like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you get an update when we do post new content. We're normally 5 days a week. Like I said, we're getting back into rhythm, getting everything squared and situated away in life right now. But the podcast ain't going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Find me on Twitter. You can give me at Richie Bradshaw36, and you can get the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. Until next time, guys, forks up. You keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.